We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Mavs fans, thanks for hanging out. I'm Kirk Henderson. You are joining our secondary live show called Mavs Party. This is an episode of our podcast and live show where you can join and participate. Tell me your basketball takes. Tell me your TV takes. Tell me anything you'd really like to talk about. We already got two folks waiting. If you're watching on the live stream, there is a pinned link to a StreamYard link, which is a really easy application. You click into it, you can access it from your phone, you can access it from your computer. If you would like to show us your pretty face, you can do so. If you don't want to, I'm not going to hold it against you. I, after all, have a face made for radio. I'm joined first by my man Brian, who is a loyal listener and friend. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, Brian. What's going on? You're muted. Great start.
There I am. I caught that
What's going on?
I was like, no, I'm doing well. How about you?
It's good. It's the 4 games are winning is nice. Winning emphatically is extra nice because I really like how Dallas took control defensively. This felt like a game filled with no excuses, and I this is a silly thing, but I've enjoyed the kind of refreshingly honest commentary from the Mavs guys lately. They cooked Maxi Kleba pretty good at an early point in the game, which made me laugh. And one of the things I wish I may see if I can suggest this. I would love it if Mark Followell, for every block of a Daniel Gafford, instead of like screaming something about the landlord, because one time he's like, Daniel Gafford blocks it out to Garland. Like, what if he referenced every little tiny like city and village in the Dallas-Fort Worth area over the course of the season? Because there's a ton of them.
That's in his bag. Yeah,
that's exactly right. Like it would just be a hilarious bit. Like he started doing it when Gafford was blocking shots, or maybe it was Lively blocking shots out in Toronto, where he just kept like referencing various provinces. I don't know. I enjoyed this game a lot.
Yeah, no, it was pretty fun, except for like the not making shots part. But the defense was awesome, and it needed to be against a team without its 2 best playmakers.
Yep.
Two of three, I guess, if you still count Chris Paul. This was not a good Warriors team that we played, but there's still a team capable of beating bad teams and teams that underestimate them. So the fact that we didn't, and the fact that we took care of business on the defensive end, our bigs did exactly what they were supposed to in the paint. They let Kevon Looney and Andrew Wiggins know this isn't 2022 anymore. You're not going to get anything sweet in here. Everything you're going to get in here is going to be hard. And that's precisely what Gafford and Lively did. The 1 for 13 Maxi shot in the middle of the game was very funny. Luka was annoying me, like taking 14-foot fadeaways over like 6'3" dudes, right? Then eventually he pulled his head out of his ass and started going to the rim, and he got fouled and hit a couple free throws. Next thing you know, a 3 falls. Imagine that.
That 3 was pretty too. I mean, yeah, the Mavericks were not getting any friendly bounces on their threes tonight. Josh Bowe just shared a link that essentially, I mean, he pointed this out in the last thing, but the Mavericks are shooting 29% from 3 during their 4-game winning streak, which is really something.
Yeah, no, it's funny because, and I think Dwight from 21 going on 7-7, it was either him or SJ that pointed out, we were always talking about how we wanted them to learn to win without relying on threes. This isn't quite what I had in mind, but as well as the defense was going, I trust that the shots are going to start falling again. Maybe, there's even more lineup tinkering that needs to happen. Maybe it's throw Jaden out there a little bit earlier just for 2 or 3 minutes, see if he can get hot, something going. Maybe Tim, catches fire again at some point in one of these short stretches he's playing. Maybe it's PJ only shooting above the breaks when he shoots from the corners. It's a hazard to the people sitting behind the backboard. I don't know what it is, but I know it's gonna regress positively to the mean at some point. And until then, we just kind of gotta hold on and keep playing defense. Defense looked good today. That's all I could really ask for. Defend, do your work early, getting into the post. If you got a smaller guy on you, go get to the paint and seal. Luka will find you, and that's precisely what happened. Except today it was Kyrie.
Also. Yeah, which was nice to see. It's really nice to see a really he didn't have like a start to finish amazing game, but he really helped close the game all the way out. And we've not seen a lot of fourth quarter Kyrie lately, which is fine. Don't expect it every game, but he was really magical in the second half tonight.
I think in the first he had 7 points and a couple assists, and that's kind of all we really need from him. We don't need you to. We just need him to show up and be a part of the game and participate in the first half and really the first quarter. And he did that tonight, and it made a whole hell of a lot of difference in a game where we didn't make any shots. We had easy open looks that we were missing, right? And Golden State was just keeping it close and keeping it close and keeping it close. And instead of hanging around, if we didn't get those 7 points in the first quarter, they could have had that lead the entire time. And then we're having to make up ground like we usually do in the second half of the game. But because he showed up and he participated, and Derrick Jones Jr., the drives were popping for him, right? Daniel Gafford was getting whatever he wanted in the paint because he is quicker than Looney and bigger than literally everybody else that they threw out there. We were able to hold on and maintain a tiny lead, and then once some shots started falling, it was over.
Yep. It's nice. It's nice. Well, are you looking forward to our first late game in like a million years tomorrow night?
I am not. I won't lie to you. I'm gonna want to get some sleep, but I'll stay up and watch it. I'll say this: it might be starting late. It's gonna end right on time for me because if Luka's not playing and these boys get rolled up out of here, I'm out by the third quarter.
See, it's so nice. Like sometimes I envy other people, whereas I do this every now and again. I'm not, we got 20 people to write for Mavs Moneyball, but so we spread the work around. Everybody does a great job picking up, but sometimes I'll try to take the really shitty stuff so other people don't have to. And I signed up for that game tomorrow night to write the recap and then do this stuff. And I will be regretting my decision about now tomorrow night because it'll be fourth quarter. Mavs win or lose. I love the game, but it's like still having to churn out 800 words and do this stuff. Granted, I big picture like it, but like in the moment, I'm like,
what's the start time tomorrow?
9 TNT game.
Oh, you'll regret that by 9:45.
Oh yeah, and then we'll get to hear whatever dumbassery the guys who don't watch the Mavericks say, where it's like, well, I need Luka to be passing the ball more, and then they show his stats and he has 12 assists a game. It's like
don't let the Mavericks have the lead going into the half. Yeah, in that game. Oh boy,
the chat thinks you're lying. Nasty. Chat thinks you'll be awake. You might be awake, but you're not going to be. You're not going to be doing this. So, well, my man, thank you so much for kicking us off.
Of course, brother. Thanks for having me.
Talk soon. All right, so I see a name in the chat I don't recognize is Drew. We're going to bring up Drew next, and that's kind of how I like to do this, guys. If I don't see you as often in here, I'm going to bring up names I don't recognize. Hope my regulars who participate don't don't get bothered by that, but I want to encourage people to join and talk about basketball. So, Drew, how you doing?
Hey, Kirk, doing good. Hear me?
I can. You sound real good.
All right.
You have a much more comfortable looking chair than I have.
Well, I understand your pain. So I've got an 11-week-old here.
See, look at you join it. See, yeah, this is right now, guys. What Drew's doing is really the epitome of multitasking. Congratulations, Drew. How you doing?
Doing good, and looking forward to that 9 p.m. start time.
You're gonna be up. You're gonna be up anyways.
That and Arlington, born and raised, but I'm out in Washington State now. And
okay, so that's a 7. Yeah, that's an okay start time for you then.
Exactly, 7 o'clock Central. I'm like trying to get home from work to catch the game. But I cannot believe we are able to win a game shooting the threes and Luka only having 21 points. Like the box score does not make any sense. It absolutely doesn't. I don't know. Like, again, astounding having such good center rotation. And also, I did not realize how terribly, terribly cooked Klay Thompson is.
Poor guy, man. He's talked about it this year, but he looks like a guy who's torn his ACL and his Achilles.
I mean, just it's you just think back from 5 years ago, and you're like, that guy would just slay.
It's kind of the problem with guys' ability to play so long is when things like this happen, when injuries rob guys, it makes earlier elements of their careers not make any sense. I mean, you get a guy like LeBron James who just so skews everything. And then there's Klay, who is a human being. He is an actual human, which is hard to understand compared to these guys that are superheroes. And he's had some pretty amazing games this year, but they're just games like tonight where he looks broken.
Yeah. It's just it was astounding. It's been, I've seen enough Warriors, during the peak, but watching it tonight, it was like, holy shit. But again, I am just like, oh my God, the amount of athleticism, the fact that we can win games without shooting threes is I'm excited for this team. We just got to crack it up to 6th. I still think there's one little piece missing somewhere. A little bit more length at the 3.
Sure.
I'm afraid of the Clippers.
I am too, but did you see what Kawhi Leonard did last night?
He's out injured.
So he had back spasms, and they kept calling it something cute. But I kid you not, the dude just left. He didn't go to the training room. He left, which I couldn't love the decision more. It's like, who among us hasn't wanted to just leave work? I'm gone. Bye, guys. It killed me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Kawhi, you never know. But that all said, like, that's the one team that I'm just like, the length and just the switchability is weird. But if we can get to 6, I like it'll be a fun postseason. I'm not, don't know if we got everything we need to go all the way, but it'll be a fun postseason. So
I think that's right.
Yeah. Anyhow, that was my quick little bit.
True.
Keep on
man. Well, good luck to you. I hope the baby sleeps. Mine has been the last week. Both of my children have really bad acid reflux. Really neat parent talk. Sorry, guys. This is my show. I'll do what I want. And like acid reflux, one of those things, it hurts in adults. I imagine it hurts children like crazy. The younger one, when we put him down, he screams like Luka Doncic on a no call. And it's been really rough for like a week, and we're taking him to a specialist soon, and they're probably gonna be like, well, it's a phase, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna die. We need to sleep. But that's kids are great. Good luck to you, man. I hope you come back soon. All right,
thank you, Kirk.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm gonna take a quick minute, probably less than a minute. If you guys are already in this show, if you could go ahead and like the stream, the YouTube guys, I would really appreciate it. If you could also consider subscribing to the show. There's a way to get alerted when we go live automatically. I try to post all that stuff, but I don't really know enough about how YouTube works. If you could consider on the audio stream sending me a review. You guys are always welcome to shoot me emails. A number of fans have found emails over the last few weeks, and I've enjoyed talking basketball with you guys. This is my real job as a Salesforce administrator. I'm kind of boring. I like talking basketball, and also, frankly, doing basketball stuff makes me better at my day job because it allows me to use different parts of my brain.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Shout out to Paolo Patty Up that says this podcast hate Luka. Paolo, I'm going to tell you a story for a minute. In the 10 games into Dennis Smith's rookie year, I was blindingly drunk watching the Mavericks, which happens. You know, the Mavericks, like 2017 or 2018 Mavericks, really, no, it's 2017 Mavericks. Yeah, October, really not good, like painful. And I proclaimed it's like October 2017. I still have the tweet that if the Dallas Mavericks wound up drafting Luka Doncic, that Dirk Nowitzki would come back for his 21st season. And then I just basically, because I'd been watching Luka tapes since he was 15. I was like, I need this man in the Mavericks. Even still, I had no idea he would be like this. So this show loves Luka Doncic. The show loves the Dallas Mavericks, and that's why we're here. So welcome to the show, Paolo. All right, coming up next is my man Doe. What's going on, Mr. Dang? How you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Is that a Tennessee shirt that you have on?
Yeah. In my job for the DOD previously, I traveled to a lot of different states, and I always try to get, a jersey or a shirt from that state or a hat or some other thing, And I love Knoxville. Knoxville, man, it's gorgeous. Great town. Beautiful town. The square is amazing.
I love college towns like that. Well, the only reason it made me think there was an instance earlier this week in the women's SEC tournament where a woman for South Carolina beat the Tennessee women's basketball team on a game-winning 3-pointer. That was one of the craziest shots I've seen in basketball because there's just no one near her because she shouldn't have shot the ball. She was like a center who doesn't take threes, and she won the game with it. And it was just everybody mobbed her because it was like it'd basically be like Eric Dampier shooting a three and winning a game for the Dallas Mavericks. It was that kind of silly. But what'd you think of tonight's game? What's going on?
Well, I got a lot of thoughts. First of all, you could see that we can be successful when we don't have the three. And what still kind of annoys me is the coach not recognizing that, hey, if we're not hitting threes, teach your players to give them a pump fake and make a move to the basket. Attack. You see how great we were when we're getting the balls to the centers. Even the mid-range game, normally that's not a high percentage shot. But if you look at Kyrie and you look at Luka, those are above average humans making those mid-range shots. It just would behoove them to vary the attack a little bit more, because they're capable of it, and if we're doing threes, we need to start it from the inside with a driving kick. Some of these threes, I'm shaking my head. My coach would have been freaking mad at me for shooting threes that way. It's just the super insistence that kid doesn't coach, really. It doesn't seem like it. He can't adjust, but I give him credit. He's adjusted a little bit, but for the most part, I don't think it's kid. I think it's his assistants getting into his ear, and him relenting. Because really, I still want to fire this son of a gun. We don't need him. If anything, he's a hindrance. He still doesn't protect the players, and jumps in with any kind of, ref interference or ref, getting a technical when he needs to. He still doesn't call timely timeouts, even though he was better tonight in the last two games. I'll give him where credit's due, but he's a long way. You're talking about his third stop in his third season and almost 9 years of coaching. Come on, man. Just some common sense things. The same with him, the defenses that he uses. He's so stubborn that he plays the same thing. How much drop coverage has he played forever? Fit the strength of your squad with the personnel that's there and adjust your defense and offense to those things. Be a coach. Be a little bit innovative.
It's difficult because I subscribe to the notion, we've all let's think of this in terms of kind of our own jobs. We've all worked with coworkers who you got to either treat with kid gloves, or a manager where you have to manage up. One of the worst things. I hate managing up, and I seem to do it all the time in my real job. But there's elements of this stuff where, in a given project or a given cycle of work, you can only use certain tactics to get through work situations so many times. And I think that's really the same thing here. I think the kid doesn't go hard enough at Luka publicly, and there's probably very smart political reasons for that. I think as we wind towards the playoffs, we're going to see, and really in the playoffs, I think the Mavericks make the playoffs, we will see kid ratchet up these things that we're losing on, because that's the time to do it. Now, I have a little bit of a problem with that approach because historically, it's really a 1, 2, or 3 seed that wins the NBA championship, period. The Mavericks are not going to be a 1, 2, or 3 seed.
No.
They have to figure out something in the long term that's a little more balanced, because this team is capable of winning more games than it has. Now that we haven't seen this team together for a whole year, but they're capable of playing more consistent basketball than they have. I just don't understand why it's particularly difficult sometimes, other than the really simple fact of Kyrie and Luka are not very good or not very focused defensively, and that tends to cause almost all of their problems.
Right. Accountability is a big issue, and some of that comes with a coach. Some of that comes with a team leadership, but also it comes up from the upper levels with Nico.
Sure.
I mean, if you're the general manager and you see your coaches aren't doing their jobs correctly, you need to give them some advice and maybe even ultimately ultimatum, and then calling out the players is the right thing to do too, either in private. I would always prefer that one-on-one in the team meetings, but at the same time, it's just a general lack of accountability and waiting for the playoffs. Like you said, it's tough to do because the West is so tight, so competitive. Don't save your moves like, we had the previous coach. He said, well, I'm kind of saving it for the playoffs. There may be no playoffs. We're one injury away from not making the playoffs, with Luka or Kyrie. We're deeper, but we can't take things for granted. The mindset has to be throw everything you have at them now. Don't burn yourself where you're over stressing the players by beating them to death with a message. But I just don't see that passion, That's the thing that gets me. I mean, I'm like you, like you said, I like passionate coaches. Avery was not the best coach in the world. I hated the voice.
Sure.
There's dumb shit he did, but that guy was passionate,
Yep.
Same thing with our previous coach. He was passionate at times, kind of an asshole, to the media and to the fans. But at the same time, tactically, you knew where we stood with the guy. He would throw the whole – Donnie Nelson was the same thing. The unpredictability of how the coaches are going to call things. I realize it's a short season. We got a bunch of new players. We don't get much practice time. But come on, we could install 1 or 2 new plays, 1 or 2 new defensive concepts, a week, because the NBA is difficult. Once they understand where you're running your plays, how you're running your plays, how you're running your defense, your predictability, it's going to work against you. Being unpredictable is an asset, and then executing it, to a level that your players' strengths is an asset, and even sometimes just popping it and showing them something different. Man, the thing I like about Rick Pitino that I loved is he threw a bunch of different defenses, but his defenses, especially the presses, wore out his team. You'd have to have a really deep roster to press the way he did and run that many defenses, But still, you could be a little bit more innovative on both sides of the ball. no cuts at all. You're not playing to the strengths of Kyrie with any cuts or backdoor screens or, more flowing motion. If you watch Luka with his country's team, he runs a totally different offense. He runs more of a offense where people are sharing the ball a whole lot more of a European offense. Some of it's motion, but some of it's set plays too. I'm puzzled. I am. Well, when the first good assistant that we had that was European left, I saw a massive drop off on our schemes, especially offensively. And then out of timeouts, he drew some amazing plays. That's one guy that I would have loved to take over as interim coach.
Well, we got who we got right now, and then we'll get to the playoffs. And then I think if the Mavericks were to flame out before then, we may not have to worry about that. But for now, I'm gonna enjoy the win. I'm gonna enjoy the Mavericks somehow never moving in the standings. We're just kind of perpetually gonna hang out in the 8th seed. Which
it's better than last year so far. I can't complain too much.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. All right, man. You got anything else for us?
No, I really appreciate what y'all do. I know it takes a lot of time away from your family and stuff. And I hope Salesforce stock drops a little because I want to buy some.
I run an instance for a nonprofit, so it's some days I know what I'm doing, and then a day like today where I spent like 45 minutes with one of their support technicians in another country, and I'm like, I am a very dumb person. That's just the way technology goes sometimes. All right, man. Talk soon, all right?
Bye-bye.
All right, coming up next is Brandon. What's going on, Brandon?
Kirk, enjoying the win. How about you?
I did enjoy the win. It's just nice. 4 in a row feels good.
Man, it does. Kirk, and this is probably I don't know. So with the few games remaining, just from a standpoint of watching, would you rather see the Mavs, maybe not really lose a competitive game, but if they do lose a competitive game, would you rather see that or them win kind of uneventful and sloppy wins? Like, to me, I feel like let me rephrase it. I feel like the Mavs, I would rather see them play competitive and more, conducive basketball than just going out there getting a win. Because right now, the wins are important, but once you get to the playoffs, they're still putting out the same effort. Then, I guess you could say they're getting ready. They might as well get ready to go fishing.
I have a little bit of a roundabout answer for you. So when Derek Harper's on the call, I tend to laugh a lot because he's funny. When Devin Harris is on the call, I tend to learn a lot because he points out what's actually happening.
Yeah.
He talked pretty early in the game about where the Dallas Mavericks defensive breakdowns are happening. There's a number of Mavs fans out there on Twitter. I'm not denigrating anyone's work. If you're going to do work, I respect it. I appreciate some of the videos that people put up. There's this one angry coach on YouTube who likes to talk about how much Jason Kidd sucks. And I've been sending some of these things to different people, both with the Mavericks and kind of around the league who know these things. And a lot of people's base assumptions on where the Mavericks defense is breaking down is wrong. Mm-hmm. It's just wrong. Now, almost all of it has to do with the quality of personnel. Like Tim, Kyrie, and Luka make more defensive mistakes on switches and things like that and help defense. The Mavericks over-rotate a lot. And they also somehow don't defend corner threes sometimes, which just blows my mind. But then they have an instance like tonight where in the third quarter, they really tighten the screws on the Warriors. And I enjoyed it, and I felt like I learned elements of what they're capable of. Now, they're not playing with Steph Curry, so it's a different situation. Mm-hmm. But I think to answer your question, I would rather see a game where I learn what this team is capable of than a game against sort of, I don't know, the Pistons game isn't a great example, but where, you kind of run a team off the floor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and they've run, and it seemed like a lot of their wins, they just running teams off the floor, hitting good shots, but they're good shots, but they're not quality shots, if that makes sense. Like that corner three, you said it before, it's not a quality shot, and to me, it's just the worst shot.
For the Mavericks?
The one where Josh Green was like really warming up, that I don't feel like that's an efficient shot.
I mean, it's unfortunately the corner three is really statistically the most efficient shot in basketball, but who is taking the shot matters a lot. When Josh is not bad at it, PJ might as well be throwing up water balloons while blindfolded, because it's just like that dude takes a corner three and I'm like, oh no, where's the ball going to go? Because it's tricky because personnel matters as much as shot quality. Which is why, I feel like some of the Mavericks play scheme stuff can be overly simplistic, but I think that's on purpose at times. It goes back to kind of the previous, the discussion about just sort of getting to the playoffs. I mean, this team is capable of doing like the offense. I don't get worried about but that said, Kid has talked about, and he's right, that the offense really fuels the defensive focus. Almost always.
That makes sense. You know what? It seems like, and kind of back to your point is personnel. Like Derrick Jones Jr., they had him trying to shoot it for a while, and they, I think that kind of led to his decline shooting wise. Josh, Tim, definitely that corner three. And it seems like, I could be wrong, but their rotation is kind of like Kyrie as well too. Kid is his plays are very predictable, and kind of like the previous person was saying, and I'm glad I haven't heard him in a while, but like you were saying, a lot of it goes kind of goes to coaching it, to me, who's in his ear. Like, is Jared Dudley, in his ear, or is somebody else in his ear? Like Daryl's been an assistant. Daryl Armstrong, he's been an assistant for a while. Shamguy's been an assistant for a while. So I don't think that they would, kind of be in his ear, but it's a new look, Sorry about this.
Good break.
Yes, it wakes me up in the morning. But it's a new look, group of assistants, and it's kind of like who's really, making the decisions right now. Because Kid is very laid back, and maybe he's letting Dudley do a lot of it, but I don't know. It just seems like they're not putting out a lot of new stuff. They're kind of predictable.
I think that's on purpose. I've sort of started to settle with that. I think that's, let's get to the playoffs and then maybe roll out some new wrinkles. I also think it's why we haven't seen certain devastating wrinkles like Luka Kyrie pick and roll. Now, if the Mavs really get to crunch time, because they still have an ability to get to the 6th seed. I mean, theoretically, they could get to the 5 seed if they actually play well enough and certain things go their way. But, for now, they're 1.5 games back from the Pelicans, despite being the 8th seed. Like, all it takes is one bad thing to happen. I mean, that's really, and you don't want that to happen to the other teams, but it's like, this is why, I think the play-in is such a win for the league, despite it not necessarily mattering for the finals. But, we're going to have fun these next few weeks.
And I just got one more question. Kirk, do you think that with Lively and the new guys being on the team, do you think time on the court together is going to be a significant factor on if they make it far into the playoffs? Like, just being around, for example, Gafford and Lively playing big minutes together, as opposed to just throwing out the regular rotation or whatever. Do you think that developing that chemistry on the court would factor into how far they make it, or do you think it's just so competitive in the West that it's just another factor?
I think you got to get to the playoffs and then worry about this, because I saw a stat earlier tonight of the play-in teams. The Mavericks, I might have retweeted it. Let me just go see if it was in my profile here. There's just some crazy stats when you take a look at like what the Mavericks have done this season, despite some of the challenges. Nick Angstadt tweeted this earlier today. West 6 through 9, Mavericks, Suns, Kings, Lakers, and the number of 5-man lineups that have played 50 plus minutes together. The Dallas Mavericks have one lineup that has played 50 plus minutes together this season. Okay, season.
It's crazy.
Like, that's insane. And
that's crazy.
So I think you just sort of, and you're not going to get like, I think if you place winning on top of chemistry issues, like not issues, but like chemistry development, I think the chemistry development comes as a byproduct of the winning.
I got you. Yeah, that makes sense. Kind of like what they call it, momentum.
I love this. Grayson Taylor joined the show. I know you have talked about Kyrie maybe needing a day off because of how much he has played recently, Kirk. Well, he didn't need one today. We did talk about that in the first show. Kyrie's was outstanding. Really probably one of the key elements to why they won tonight. It was really nice to see. All right, man. You got anything else?
No, man, that's it, man. And, I just kind of hope that Luka's looking really good, man. I just kind of hope that I would give him a night off, man. That hamstring's nothing to play with.
No, but I also can't, I just don't trust anything the Mavericks do with injury report stuff because I'm like, Luka will play through anything because he likes playing, and I think he would want to play against another premier MVP-based candidate, but I don't know. I bet he ends up going, and then I bet they end up making the call right before the game. That's kind of my theory. So,
all right, well, thank you, Kirk.
Of course, talk soon. All right, coming up next is my man, Henry. Henry, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on? For some odd reason, it kind of just been fading in and out. Let me know how it sounds.
You sound good. Thanks for joining.
Okay, all right. Something Bo brought up. I can't remember. I think it had to do with coaching, but I think we mentioned it earlier. Like, I'd love to have what's the Partizan? Do you know the coach for Partizan?
Yes, probably, as it's been explained to me, one of the best basketball coaches actively coaching in the world.
Yeah, I would love him if we can somehow steal him away. If not, we can take Pablo, Lucas Real Madrid coach, Igor Kokoskov. I think that was the guy Dang was referring to earlier as well, as far as the assistant. And Kawhi's injury was a thoracic spasm or thoracic spasm, something along those lines, is what you were looking for. But
I just the idea that he fucking left work. Like, it makes me laugh so hard.
I definitely hope he's all right, but I mean, I wish they would have gave KD and Kyrie that same grace when they were in Brooklyn. I mean, the Clippers have been injured for 7 years now, give or take, and they still.
Kawhi gets the most. I think it's because he legitimately never speaks, but he gets the most grace for just leaving, because it almost feels like this season, because Kawhi's frankly been unbelievable. I question whether he had a leg injury at all at this point. He looks so damn good.
Yeah, who knows? But the other thing, I'll completely off topic though. You're a Salesforce admin. I was thinking about one, I love Salesforce, but two, I was indecisive in between iOS developer and cybersecurity. I think I'm gonna go cybersec. I don't know what it is that kind of keeps pulling me to that field. I fucking love that field. So
a job. That sounds amazing.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I love cyber. What was I going to say? Oh, tomorrow's game, not worried about it. I actually think that's going to be not a pretty easy victory, but OKC didn't magically get girth in size in the paint magically since the trade deadline. So between Lively and Gafford, I'm going to be honest, I'm not too worried about OKC. Denver, I do think is a loss, but because Kai is fasting for Ramadan and he can't break his fast until 7:30, that game's at 3:30, so he's going to be playing that entire game on an empty stomach. No fluid, no food. So I think
Can you not drink during Ramadan either?
No water.
Dude, I would fail.
It's complete and total discipline. But OKC tomorrow, 9 o'clock late game. He's going to be full from the first quarter. I'm telling you, mark this. We're beating OKC tomorrow again. How do you feel about the next two games?
I mean, I was really keen on the Mavericks winning these 4 games, just so in case things were to go awry during these games, they will have something to fall back on. I would have loved the OKC matchup with Luka and Kyrie together just because of the way they put rim pressure against a kind of thinner Oklahoma City team. I'll be interested to see. I don't think Exum played in the last blowout, the Mavericks, where they just beat the pants off of Oklahoma City. He's such an interesting player to me because I think he really pairs well with Kyrie and Luka as running point guard for both of them. And if the Mavericks were to ask him to play or bear a heavier minute load tomorrow, and let's say he plays 26 to 28 minutes instead of 25, 22 or whatnot, I would give the Mavericks a really good chance because I think asking Kyrie to carry the offensive load as the point guard the whole game only serves to wear him out by the fourth quarter, particularly, I keep talking about his games played, where it's like 18, 19 in a row now, which is the most in 6 years.
Mhm.
And I don't want, I was really delighted to see him play well tonight because I'd been mentioning how I think he needed a nap, more or less. And for him to break through tonight was a really nice sign, because he broke through while not shooting the ball very well. So what happens if he comes out tomorrow night and hits, like, I don't know, 3 early threes in the first half? Like, what does that do to the Oklahoma City defense? That has a cascade effect for the rest of the offense that benefits everyone. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Hey, shout out to Dang. He said go cyber. I'm gonna definitely focus on that. Either network security or it's probably something AWS.
Guys, do what I did. I married a smart lawyer who makes money, and so she lets me podcast for a living. No, it's not for a living, but
what's I finna say? Oh, one thing. Have you seen fan 123, the troll in the chat?
Oh, of course.
Okay, cool. I will make a wager. If you get fan 123 up here to show his face, I'll donate $100. He's 152. You set the price, I will fucking donate it. If you can get fan 123 to come up here.
Look, as an attempt at a community builder, there are people, and you see this. You're a Kyrie Irving fan,
right?
There are people who push the Overton window a little too fucking wide, who are just a little too insane. I would love if anybody joined up here, but I will simply say that I enjoy the fans who are absolutely insane about sports. That's what I mean. Because
he's not even a fan. He's just on here purposely trolling, saying the most outrageous shit for clicks and views. I'm just saying, I got it at 100 to 250. You let me know. I will donate anything in between if you bring fan 123 up here.
He's got a request to come up. I would absolutely do it. But man, what else do you got for us? Anything else before we head out for the evening?
We're going to win tomorrow versus OKC. Whether Tide plays or not versus Denver, I'm gonna be honest with you, that's going to be a close one. Denver is, to be honest, the only threat. If we don't run really good, Denver until in best case scenario, if we don't run into Denver into the Western Conference Finals, I feel pretty good about it.
They're just really good.
I know Omax probably isn't going to get the minutes, but I would like to see him get it. Oh, and I was listening to some of the Warriors chatting. Oh, yeah, Steph and Draymond. Again, too small. No one outside of Steph can create their own shot, and we're just bigger than they are in the paint. So I don't think
Luka seems to regular season basketball where Kirk can't kind of scheme to death, which he's very good at. But regular season, the Mavericks tend to beat the crap out of the Warriors. Like Luka's just particularly very mean to them. And it was nice to see. I messaged one of my friends who I know both the podcasts for the Warriors Light Years podcast. And I'm just like, is your defense designed to give up dunks? Like, I've not seen this many Mavs dunks in a game in my life. It was amazing.
Just so small. They're tiny, my guy. Like, I'm serious. Like, we're going to get the 6th seed, not because I think the Mavericks are going to go on a huge winning spree, but because have you seen Phoenix's last 10 games for the season?
They're brutal.
Yeah, so there's no way they'll probably go even maybe, but Phoenix's last 10 games are absolutely brutal to end the season. So just off the strength of that alone, I think we're most likely going to get the 6th seed. I don't think we're going to get the 5th seed, but 6th seed, you can pretty much book it, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I'm higher on this team. Shout out to Dang. Fan 123, get your dumb ass up here, and we'll catch you on the next one.
All right, man. Talk soon. Have a good one.
See ya.
Henry's a good dude. My favorite Kyrie Irving super fan. There are some youths in existence. My favorite is just like, I'm like, when you put your age in your profile, and I'm just like, that means the last time you saw Kyrie play certain basketball games, like you didn't have a driver's license. Like respect. I'm old, so it's an internet, it's basketball. You should be able to say what you want, but I'm just like, the things I remember when I was 13 are a little different. It's just you see the world differently when you're older. Krishna, what's going on, my guy?
Kirk, how are you?
I'm finishing up my second adult beverage, so I'm feeling a little sauced at this point, but functional. I could continue to talk basketball.
That's good. Well, yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting. Obviously, I think some of the talk has like kind of subsided after, a pretty bad spell of games. I'm not gonna sit
Not
here and
horrible.
like it wasn't. Yeah, I mean it was, but I also think like scheduling in the NBA and sports in general is just weird. Like you can tell it feels very random at points. And clearly like it was a point of the schedule where the team just wasn't playing good basketball, but it was also because you're playing teams that were better than you in most cases, and also just really bad matchups overall. Like I think some of the stuff with Lively is just that he's done so well up to this point. It's easy to forget the guy is still a 20-year-old rookie who, in comparison to most of like guys like Miles Turner and KP, he doesn't have the playing experience or the experience of playing against guys who are going to shoot the 5-ball or 3-ball as much. Like he doesn't have that stretch big experience. And so it makes sense. And Gafford, while maybe I think he'll have the confidence to do it, he's not that kind of center. And I don't think he'll ever be that kind of center. So yeah, I'm not going to sit here and like justify those losses. They're still bad losses, but you played against teams that clearly we're way out. We're going to way out scheme you because of their style of play. But it was good that you got the win against Miami. I was kind of concerned just because Miami, I feel like the Mavs have been okay against Miami in recent years, but Miami is the kind of team where they just are so frustrating because that they're almost never going to you're just never going to know if their offense will show up. But
Yes.
they have a baseline level of defense that's frustrating. So it was encouraging that they won that game. And then obviously Detroit is Detroit. Like there's not much to say about them. I find it very funny that Detroit and Washington are now in this competition to see who is going to be the better of the two worst teams in the league, especially like Detroit fans have latched on to like Kuzma, who tweeted earlier in the season, like, you wouldn't want to be the team to lose to them. And now Washington, I think, has less wins than Detroit, which is that is coming to bite you in the bum. Chicago, I still have no idea how we beat Chicago so badly. And then like they had a game against Indiana matchups, I guess. But even tonight, like, the team is just, I think sneakily, the team has not been shooting the 3-ball well. Like not just from the trade deadline, not even just like, I know Josh was talking about earlier, the team wasn't shooting well. It's 29%, right, in these past 4 games. But just in general, I think the team has given up some of its 3-point shooting ability. But I think that compromise has come from the defensive end. Now, has that worked? No. I mean, clearly we've seen like in that horrible stretch, like we were just a horrible defense. But, one of the things that was, I don't want to say underrated, but key in that 22 run was just most of the guys who were your defensive, players played that entire season together. And so they were far better in terms of communication and knowing each other. And I think that's something that's just going to take time. Does this mean I still think, coaching isn't an issue? No, I still think it's the primary issue of this team is always going to be coaching. But when your biggest issues are on the court, I think that helps. The Mavericks have never been a team really that have had serious off the court issues. But it's not like, this team is like collapsing everywhere. And I think it's frustrating to think like this, but this is really like you're building a new roster, essentially. Like you've been stuck with so many players for so long, you're building a new roster. And, while I do want to go and just get into contending championship mode, getting those right pieces takes some time. And so, I get like some fans' frustration, like you want to see Omax, you want to see this player do that. And I don't think all of it is wrong. Like I do think sometimes the rotations have been weird, but it's been better these past 4 games. So personally, I don't have that much to complain about. And I think some of the stuff with Omax, like I think it's been positive. You've talked about it, and I feel like it's been one of the positives I can attribute is kids, and the coaching staff's dealing with young players, I think has been really good in terms of progressing them and getting them to fit into a system and fit in the team and feel like they have a role. I think is kind of been underrated. Like it's not something we necessarily always had a problem with. One, because we just didn't draft well ever. But now that, you have guys who are somewhat talented, it's easy to just throw them in the water And I don't think it's necessarily that kid doesn't ever trust anyone, but I do think there's a little bit more caution with these guys. And I think, yeah, it's frustrating. I want to see Omax in the NBA, but I think him just getting more accustomed to playing in the flow of an offense, which he's gotten better at. Like, I've been watching some of his G League stuff. Yeah, he's shooting a lot better, but he's just making better reads. And the thing that was clearly the issue was he plays at like one pace. He was playing at like 100 miles per hour every single time, and he's slowed down a lot more now. Do I know if that translates? I don't know. It'll only be time that tells.
Yeah.
But I think that there's clear improvement there. And then I was talking about this with someone like a few days ago. The fact that the team is actually using the G League in a way to develop guys, like, okay, like I get it. You're not always going to get like I don't know. It's very rare you get anyone from the G League, but there's actual investment in the G League. Like I know AJ Lawson's probably not like a world beater or anything, but you actually sign someone from the G League who wasn't a 30-plus-year-old.
Sure. He gives me confidence. They could play him 4 minutes and not die.
Yeah, and it's not like the end of his development, right? And he's a different player from even last season, and he improves. And got guys like Brandon Williams, who's on the 2-way. You have Greg Brown, who's been actually like really great for the Legends. Like he's like the leading. He's like one of the top blocks. He's accumulated like most blocks in the league. Like averages it. Like they've secretly done a much better job of making the Legends roster just more competent. And in turn, I think it kind of shows like just a change in philosophy overall for this team is just far more balance and far less like, it's what you talked about for so long. There's less one trait guys. There's less guys that are so reliant on Luka every single night to do something. And in a weird way, as much as I like THJ and I know you do too, THJ is kind of the last remnant of that, of someone who is kind of important to this team, but is still a very one trait guy. Now, I think in this past stretch, he's been fine. So I'm not really one to complain about it, but it's clear guys like Dwight and guys like Maxey, their roles are being lessened because you don't need their one trait to be there all the time. You have guys who are far more fluid and can do a few more things, but it's interesting. I don't know where this goes. Obviously the West is a gauntlet, man. Like I never want to hear people who support teams in the East complain because the West is so stupid. I mean, you said it. How does a 48-win team not make the playoffs?
That's how bad there's been 1 year in 25 years that the East is just a lesser conference because it's run by dumber people and more tense media markets. I think that experience more scrutiny. So you pair that with bad luck in certain instances, and you just run into like stupidity over and over and over again.
It really is. It feels like it should be getting worse. Like I can't even remember. It just feels like, oh, okay, now the West is going to ease up, and now it just gets worse. Like one team falls off, and the next team gets better. Like that's just what happens in the West. But yeah, I'm confident. I mean, obviously tomorrow we'll see OKC.
Yep,
it's a better matchup for us. Obviously, everyone's talked about it. We play bigger. How crazy is it? How crazy is it that we can say the Mavericks are a bigger team than some teams in the league now?
Well, it's different kinds of size. Like I would say the Mavericks have kind of better center depth now, just because the Thunder don't really have center depth. But the forward depth that the Thunder have is pretty dang big.
I would agree, yeah. But I also think like the Mavs center depth is like pretty rare in general. Like I can't think of a team that I would sit out there and say they have two centers that they're comfortable putting out for 48 minutes a game. Maybe Cleveland, probably.
Yep.
I can't really think of a team, and you could say maybe Toronto, but I would take Gafford and Lively over Podol and Olynyk. So I think it's beneficial, and I think a lot of the three. I think Omax will be ready next season. I don't
think that's right.
I don't think he'll be like I don't think he's going to come out of the gates like super strong in terms of like, oh, he's going to score like double digits.
Right.
But I think he's far more competent, and I think that helps, especially hopefully Derek Jones comes back next season. But I think it's in some ways it's kind of good insurance, right? I think there's just been smarter roster building overall, and so obviously we'll have to see how this season goes. But I'm just happy. The team is not necessarily yeah, I mean, that's what you want, right? I think everyone just wants to watch their team and feel happy. And so it's been good. I don't really have much to complain. I'm glad, everyone's enjoying it, and hopefully the good times keep rolling.
All right, man. We'll talk soon, okay?
Take care.
Okay, one last thought on Omax. Then I'm going to go to my guy Mike, who's going to be our final guest, and then I will go to bed in an hour and a half, and I'm done editing all this. I had a friend who covers Portland, who I think the legends must have played the Portland team, and his thoughts on Omax was that Omax was a guy playing, an NBA player playing in the G League, which is interesting. So. All right, coming up now is Mike. He's going to close us out. Mike, what's going on, man?
What's up? What's up? Can you hear me?
I can. You sound great. Thanks for joining.
Okay, awesome. I didn't really get to watch much of the game today. I'm still having them on my second screen. So
sure. What were you doing on the first screen? That's much more important to me.
I mean, today it was second screen, as in I was watching my babies. First screen was my kid. But most of the time, me and my wife try to get the either The Wire or just a different movie. We nice. Split up Dune, the first one, into a bunch of different parts. Second one was amazing. But anyway,
good. It was amazing.
Yeah, the first one was just all set up. Second one was just
sure. I mean, I'm a preposterously large science fiction nerd, and I've read all of the Dune books. We're talking 20 plus of them, and they get so fucking weird whenever everyone's like, I'm ready for the next one. I'm like, no, you ain't.
Yeah. chill.
What'd you think tonight from your second screen experience and what you were picking up after the game?
All that I could see is Derek Lively being an absolute beast, just doing anything out there. And all I can think about is how good is this guy going to be? How good is he going to be next year is what I'm more worried about. Because, I mean, we're probably going to have a disappointment this season. I don't want to think about that. All I can think about is Derek Lively in the gym all summer, coming back. It makes me feel like we didn't overpay for Gafford. We saw Derek Lively outpacing his role. We need someone to fill that role. And then Derek Lively can come and be an ultra and a Wemby stopper. I don't know what this guy can do.
It's great. We have options.
He can just flip things. It looks like he has English sometimes when it's not like he's just dunking. It's just like sometimes he can gather and just finish under the rim and then just flick things. I love watching how balanced he is. I remember just watching a lot of Dirk interviews talking about how he would work on his balance every offseason, how he could never get enough balance to do the Kareem hook shot. But man, maybe he should get in the gym with Dirk. Maybe we should get some Lively at the nail. Maybe if they're not blitzing Luka, then we can just dump it off to Lively and see what happens. Break it up that way.
Sure. And we've not even seen the man shoot a three-pointer. And the 3-point shooting was one of the things that pushed him up most people's draft boards.
Supposedly, yeah. I've heard tell.
The myth.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I just want to know how good he can be. And then I want the Spurs to trade for Trae Young, because then we would have Trae Young, Shea, and Luka all coming out of the same draft. And then you'd have Lively, Wemby, and what's the OKC guy?
I mean, you're not even talking about Zion, Ja Morant. The Southwest Division is a murderer's row of super duper stars. And the Rockets players, they're going to get somebody good. They have both Brooklyn picks. They're going to be incredible. I hate it. I hate the Southwest. I want the Mavericks to go to the Eastern Conference.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think we'll be good. I like my two guys against them. So I don't know. I'm just overly enthused by Lively. I want a mixture of Tyson Chandler and Dirk Nowitzki. That's what I see.
I love it, man. Thanks so much for hanging out. Appreciate you staying up late.
See ya.
All right, talk soon. Okay, guys, we're gonna be back tomorrow night. It's almost midnight now, so I can still say tomorrow night. We'll be back after the Thunder game. Thanks so much for hanging out. Everybody be good and go Mavs.